Making a video. In the video, so more of this brain stuff, I believe. So the modern mystic, in fairness to him, he has restated his observation or whatever. Yeah, his conversation. Um, and his argument is fundamentally simple one, that we don't have to be conscious to do reflexes, which, yes, and he concedes that, oh yeah, well maybe you already know that, and that doesn't seem very interesting, which is true. Yeah, and so it really doesn't say anything, and I don't think it's a complete enough restatement, because the implications of the other statements are too broad. I mean, to just say, oh, let's pretend I didn't say that. Praying Mantius Praeatus. Oh, there he goes, praying. Silly bastard. It's no God, asshole. It says you, I'm God, fucker. Yeah, that's what he's saying. I should have pointed the camera at him because he said that. Yeah. It really is that disgusting. If God existed, he would have to be a praying mantis, quite obviously. Anyway, I have the ethics at one and such, the knowledge base, the instructional manual. Anyway, so this whole conversation gets to lots of, I think these subjects are interesting in the sense that people have such a pile of crap in their head about how things happen and what's happening. And it kind of gets back to the selfish gene, in a sense, because, you know, Dawkins makes this salient point, you know, that the game isn't being played by us. The game's being played by hunks of chemistry on a DNA molecule. That's where the game was decided. We're the demonstration models that just test or prove the theory. That's all we do. We just kind of prove, oh yeah, that is the best molecule. And we just, you know, you know, we establish that fact, you know, through our testing of the models. And, you know, clearly through the test process, the superiority of one model might get, you know, something stupid might happen. It gets a cramp or whatever. You know, and it really doesn't have anything to do with the new model. It just has to do with bad luck. You know, a meteor hits one of the contestants in the Olympics, and gee, that's, you know, that was tough luck. Didn't have much to do with the contest, so to speak. They weren't really testing to see who could evade meteors the best. Anyway, I do digress. So all these subjects, they have, there are fundamental answers. So I thought this would probably be a good subject to mess with my logic idea of doing these shorter, eventually, concise videos, and just have the yes or no questions and try to percolate it down to a rational argument about something that actually might be disputable in some way. That there might be you know, capable of having a rational conversation about. Meaningful, maybe. I don't know whether you can do that. I don't know if there's any of this that's meaningful in any other way beyond, unless you're getting to the point, which is, oh shit, this is all so mechanical. Why do people revere this nonsense, this silly game we're playing? And to do it over and over and over again is just so Einsteinian stupid. I mean, Einsteinian stupid in the same as, that's the definition of an imbecile, you know, somebody who does something wrong over and over and over again. Anyway. Okay, so, getting some water. Yeah, I didn't plan on watering because I said that's not a great thing to do in a video, Gary. But the plant is just, you know, he's doing that I want sympathy thing, you know, looking all feeble and weak and, you know, begging essentially. So anyway, fucking beggars, all of them. You know, whatever. I was going to talk about what thieves they were, but no point in getting into that. So, here. Oh. Yummy. Where was I? Brain. So, yeah, so I was thinking the comment section, perhaps somebody can do something useful. I don't know. I haven't seen anything useful in many years. But, you know, the idea will be to come up with the silly stuff that people believe, like parameciums are conscious, that they feel good or bad, or they feel warm or cold, or some kind of crap like that. Like, those are obvious silly people, and we have to deal with that. I have to deal with it, because obviously none of you will deal with any of this. Then there's the bigger questions that are a little more reasonable for people to be uncertain or whatever to get to. So just question kind of things to get to it. You know, how would you weed this down to a rational conversation? So the more reasonable question, the mystic, you can see, is sort of heading for it, so I figure I'll head there also. You know, what parts of the brain, how is consciousness manifest in brain? I mean, that's a really, really, it's almost not a philosopher question, but, you know, just because you can get into all the medical things, like how anesthesia works and, you know, stuff like that, to figure out exactly how our consciousness is, you know, put out of commission. At least the sensually connected consciousness. Clearly we have that whole dream function, which is a whole nother area that's problematic, because it's essentially a kind of consciousness. No, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, it's quite obviously it's a residue of consciousness. You have to have consciousness before you can have dream states, I think. Pretty much. All right, but one of the underlying points I'm going to get to, or wish to get to, in the conflict with the mystic's previous video, is just the idea that he's talking as if our brain is just doing a calculation and then acting. And clearly the calculation is more complicated because of this value thing. So we're back to this, and it's fundamentally tricky to come up with a way to synthesize a notion of value. But that's the first thing. We're conscious because consciousness allows us to feel, not because consciousness allows us to think. So I think that's one of the statements I'll make, rather boldly, aggressively, assert with some confidence, that the real function of consciousness is to manufacture, to manifest the feeling qualia thing, the creation of value. And then we think about feeling, and we value in a new way by associating our thoughts with feelings, in the sense that we would say, like bad economics, you know, something that's not good, is not good because it will cause harm, it'll cause this torture or suffering thing. And clearly that's built into the game of understanding efficiency. Something can't be inefficient or dysfunctional if it's causing less harm, and so clearly that's the association is with this same rudimentary mechanism that created this first ouch. So I guess that could be one of the interesting questions. So I'll help you along here. I'll show you by example what I'm looking for. Is one of the questions would be, do you think, forgot the question, should be able to remember it though, something to do with, do you think Yeah, do you think parameciums can feel an ouch? That kind of thing. So what level of brain function, animal function, is doing the ouch thing? I've previously argued, I think quite rationally, that any organism you can show to learn likely ouches, because learning requires rewarding, and without rewarding, no ouch, removal of ouch, then there's no way to confirm the right answer. So the right answer can only be established by some mechanism that can reward it. You can't know you did good on the test, so to speak, unless you get the cupcake or the spanking, in case you did badly. And yeah, so that's the mechanism you're fighting against, is that you can't really do learning unless you have a valuer, really, to establish, to confirm, reward, practically, for storage purposes. It really can't be stored as the right answer unless you think, okay, connected to this value thing again. You have to think, right answer, less harm. That kind of, it'll always come down to a less harm. Anything you think is good in the world, you're going to think it's good because it's doing this less harm thing. You might be doing the, oh, there's more joy thing, but the more joy thing is just a silly man's way of perceiving the less bad thing. You're just confused if you think the joy thing is really a joy. It's only joy because you only see it as a positive, because you're not understanding the context of the negative, which is the constant oppression of your existence, of existence itself. It's like being released from gravity. You might not feel gravity, like every day. You might not be saying, oh God, I'm being smashed by gravity. And then one day, if I release you from it, you'll say, oh shit, now I know what I was suffocating in. It's like right now I don't have a sense that the air quality is shitty. But if I could transport myself to the ocean right now, just a snap of my fingers, I'd be like, oh fuck, this is what air smells and tastes, and I'd be like, oh, how was I breathing that shit? So it's like I don't have awareness that I'm being suffocated here, because no one's giving me really good air. I'm not tasting the real good stuff. I'm just tasting bits that are relatively worse, and more worse, and worser, and worstest, and down the list. So I have I don't have a rational context with which to, because my brain just doesn't do that. It's not. Well, it does in the sense that I'm talking about it, so obviously I understand it, but I just mean it doesn't physically, reflexively do that. It lives most of the time in the moment, and it adapts to the moment, and it's part of the way it makes you a game player, is to keep getting you to forget yesterday. Just don't remember that. It's not going to do you any good. So it just keeps trying to push you into the future, and it only wants you to use the past when it's convenient. So it doesn't want you to play with the club, so to speak. It's like you're a child, and it's basically saying, don't let him play with that unless he really needs to, because he's such an idiot he'll probably hit himself in the head with it. So club, yeah, you only get that when the Tyrannosaurus show up and stuff. Kind of a thing. Your brain's treating you like an imbecile, and generally speaking, it's probably deserved. For you people, anyway. Yeah. Obviously my brain should trust me, but I can't get it to do that. So it's not like I have any, it's not like you get any magic powers by figuring out there's magic powers. Yeah, you still can't have them. You know, even though you know you're theoretically saying, hey, I should be able to, it's like the energy in an atom. You can certainly know it's there, but ooh, it's really tricky getting it the hell out of there. You know, you gotta be really careful. And obviously there would be some kind of, I mean, if you were running the world, you would obviously put a barrier to access to that bomb. And conveniently, in the real world, nature has provided some, you know, it didn't make that one too easy to reach, because certainly, yes, then we would have been blown up a long time ago. But it's inevitable that it will be easily reached, and humans will not be reliable. And so there's a look, we're going to get blown up anyway. We're going to kill each other eventually. I say we just get to it in a graceful way. We do it on purpose, some sort of deliberate, sensible, as stated, graceful manner. Some sort of keep our dignity. You know, don't go out looking hysterically stupid. But more importantly, don't go out leaving so much waste. You know, creating, ignoring, you know, all this preventable anguish and angst and torture and torment that will be imposed because of this reluctance to accept these basic truths about how we function and what we are. So anyway, it is a it is the kind of subject that you really do have to keep the first facts, I'll call them, fundamental facts, yeah. First facts, fundamental facts. I have to say, I want to come up with better rhetoric for this kind of stuff, but that'll have to do. And you have to keep those always in view when discussing this. So I'm thinking that's also something I have to do, is write this down and create a visual of some kind that goes with the subject, where we just keep in mind that, okay, you know, try to understand that, like even if I say something like, consciousness is an illusion, in the sense that it's not it's a neurological function. There's an arrangement of neurons that will produce it, but there is no actual mechanical space. It's the synthesis of the image that is invisible to us, yet it is the image. It's like in ultraviolet light, and we can't see it. Right? So the image is in a light we can't see, but your brain has basically created the theater. It's created the screen, the projector, and has you tied in the seat, the you thing. And but it's all been drawn in ink you can't see, but it is in structure. That's the composition. That's the function of it. And consciousness is just where feelings meet memories. So you feel and you compare, and pretty much that simple process it's just an elaboration of that process. You just keep making comparisons to stored memoried information, stored information. So you just keep comparing feeling now with feeling then, so to speak, and the things associated with feeling then, like the color red, the blood, or some other thing will be associated, and then your brain's doing this thinking thing, and you're off to the races. But the thoughts are always connected to a feeling in the end. They drag a feeling with them into this space, this consciousness, and it's blended. And I guess another argument I make to the mystic, I really didn't want to cut that off, is I want to keep to that context story, And so that's one of these contextual points, is the fact that this is all just a manufactured event. But clearly the manufacture of it is real. The neurons really do create it. So it is a thing. It just doesn't have a place. It's an event. It's an action. So it's like me saying me kicking a ball is the physical step by step of that happening creates consciousness. One of the praying mantis victims. You must be nearby. They're sitting right in front of me. Look at that bitch. You is a big bitch, baby. Big bitch. Bitch. She is a female. Yeah, I don't like when she gets the pretty butterflies, but that's just bigotry. That's all. Ignorant fucking bigotry. Even to say that shit is just so ignorant. But that's how dumb we are, is that we can't help it. Because that's the feeling engine. Pretty feels better. So the thing I did want to get to, so besides the, people just aren't going to get, they just fuck it all up when you say it's an illusion, and they just pretend we don't do it. And it's just like, no, that's not what illusion means. It doesn't happen. No, it does happen. It's just happening in a way that is analogous to reality, but it isn't a reality. So, that's that kind of thing. It's doing the same thing reality does. It's just not doing it in ink. It's doing it in pencil. It's a different, it just doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means it didn't happen the way hard reality happens. Material reality usually happens. It's happening through the mechanism of material reality. But the creation is actually the dance. The dance is the thing. Oh, that's a good example, dance. Dance isn't material. It's a sequence of material events. And that's what your consciousness is, a sequence of material events. And it's very real in the sense that that pattern obviously creates this thing called a feeling. And this thing called a feeling is the only thing important in this whole fucking bullshit universe. That's probably one of these good questions. Do you understand that feelings are the thing that's important in the universe? Do you think something else is important? Is a tomato important? I shouldn't use the example of a tomato because some idiot out there no doubt thinks plants feel. Doesn't have a neuron, but somehow, this consciousness thing, you can just tune it in with anything. You can stick a fork in the air. I'm tuning in consciousness. The whole thing is like Wi-Fi or something. Silly shit. So that's what I'm up against. So these conversations are really quite difficult. And then there's nobody who has the balls to actually have a conversation. To actually say something stupid and let me ridicule it. Or to attempt to, in some way, somehow logically injure something I say, which is, no, obviously that's just not possible. Stab with a logical sword, the integrity of what I have produced as an argument. So the real key thing I wanted to get to with the mystic is the fact that the feeling thing is what, if you're going to talk about consciousness, that's the ingredient that really matters, because that's the one you need consciousness, in my opinion, to create. The valuing thing just can't be synthesized artificially unless you program it ahead of time. So you just really can't create. If you were to create an artificial life form, I don't think you can come up with a rational method for it to acquire value, understanding, the ability to be rewarded and punished for good or bad logic, without you sticking a bunch of MS-DOS operating system code in there. You're going to have to give it a lot of cheat codes for it to acquire a mechanism to confirm good thinking, reasoning. Because reasoning, all our reasoning is based on acquisition of the knowledge of good and bad. Without knowledge of good and bad, you cannot reason, is essentially my argument. The reasoning will all fall apart because every word is in fact connected contextually to pain and pleasure. They're all in some way or another related to their power really exists in their connection to the relevancy of conscious feelings. And that's the real guts of consciousness. And everybody keeps talking about it as if this, because they're so in love with the big smart human and, oh, we're so special and we're so blah 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 blah. No, the mammals are all doing the conscious thing. They're all doing it probably with, when they go to the beach, it probably is even more sensually spectacular. You know, because all their senses still work. Ours have been dulled and retarded to give us this stupid ability to, you know, calculate pi. But anyway, that's a side subject. Well, it really isn't, but it has to do with this whole idea that people just keep writing a narrative for humanity that is just a preposterous lie and has nothing to do with what really is valuable and what really means something and what really is accomplishment and what really matters. Alright, so I'll go through this one more time. Yeah, so feelings is the real thing that consciousness exists to produce. Its value. So we can just replace the word feeling with the word value. It's awareness of value that consciousness provides a mechanism to get to. And you can't do intelligence without it. Unless you pre-program it. Unless you program it in a narrow way where it'll always have to be one static reaction to the world. I mean, you certainly don't need to feel to create a machine that can figure out how to put, or how to acquire more food by having a bigger mouth or something like that, or opening its mouth and closing its mouth. Certainly that kind of logic you can create, but you're not going to create anything called learning without feeling. So that's what we're really talking about, is learning, not genetic programming. Genetic programming certainly doesn't need consciousness, but you can't genetically program the subtleties of complex behavior. So that's not possible, in my opinion. There's no example of it anywhere, anyway. Well, no, yeah, I don't want to go too far. I mean, certainly there are some organisms, like a clam, has a whole bunch of programs, but has very little neurology, tiny brain. And but yeah, you can see they're all the same. It's just knee jerks and knee jerk and knee jerk and knee jerk. It's just not very much to it. It's like a jellyfish. It looks like it's doing something, but it's really not doing shit. I mean, it's really, really simple in terms of the mechanism. You know, it's a toy by comparison. Well, not even by comparison. In fact, it's just a toy. Very simple function. Very simple mechanism. No feelings involved. So where would I want to go? Yeah, so this is an interesting subject. It does get in many ways to this whole identity thing with human beings and their frickin' egos and all this other crap, this glorification of our function, and all that's important to tear down. But consciousness is more than just a bad design by nature, an unnecessary, trivial extra bit in the sense that I would argue that I can't construct, myself anyway, any kind of design of awareness of good and bad without creating a good and bad engine, without creating something that creates, ooh, that was bad, that you have to experience it. You can't just know it, you have to experience it for it to be associated with your vocabulary in any meaningful way. You have to know it's bad. You can't just think it's bad. Subtle difference. But I don't want to play a word game, so you could ignore that because that's kind of a dodgy phraseology to make a distinction between thinking and knowing. But it's this level of, it's like you have to, knowing a sword can penetrate you and hurt you, and having the sword penetrate and hurt you, you're just not very connected. And if you don't know, if you haven't tasted something like a sword hurting you, like a pricker pricking you, if you don't have anything to compare it to that actually hurt, you might not believe it. And that's the problem with just making some statement like I think. I think won't mean anything unless I have evidence behind it. And to have evidence, you have to have personal knowledge. Might be a good way to say it, or a better way to say it. Alright, I won't go on forever. Well, I will. I'll probably make a 3 and a 4 and a 10. And because this is all we got is a stupid brain, so I probably should make a whole bunch of psychology videos and just keep pointing out what silly fucking creatures you are. I'll do a little of that. I don't want to make a response video to Anacondavod's video, but some asshole asked him, what would you do if everybody was dead on the earth? And you know, the context of those stupid things are always so stupid, in the sense that my brain starts thinking about things like, okay, if all the people are dead, are all the pets dead? Because if all the pets aren't dead, I got a real problem, because I got to go everywhere and save all the animals who are locked in their house and don't get the food, and they can't open the pantry, and you know, all the animals in the zoos, and there's all kinds of shit to take care of. And then if you kill all the mammals, well, you know, on Earth, well, that's not going to help, because then in 38 hours, there's going to be 4 inches of flies on the ground. So that's not going to work. You know, I'm just saying, it gets to be a little bit complicated, because the real biosphere can't have things like that happen without there being implications. So it's hard to draw a scenario that's safe unless you just eliminate all life, kill everything, sterilize the planet, and then say, okay, go out and play. And my argument would be, it's just a silly question anyway, but why would I do anything different than I do now? I watch a movie, have a wank. You know, I don't see what's going to change. There's nothing. You know, the whole idea of saying, oh yeah, I'll fly an airplane, you know, taking risks that I'm going to crash it because I'm not exactly an expert pilot. I mean, I flew some simulators, yeah, on my PC, so yeah, I did okay. But well, anyway, and go somewhere fancy, to do some fancy thing. You're just like, why the fuck would I waste my time? There's like 1,000 mansions in this town. Well, the 2 related towns. Let's just say the 3 towns around here. It's got to be at least 1,000 mansions. And I don't mean little mansions. I mean fucking mansions. Really rich people. So I got 1,000 days right there. 1 day in each one. But I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm still just going to have a sandwich, watch some TV. There's nothing, you know, the game isn't going to be any different. I'll see some movies I haven't seen yet. You know, sleep in a nicer bed. You know, certainly it's nice to, you know, I can make messes and I don't have to clean anything up. That's cool. But I'm just saying, it's just a silly question. It doesn't get at anything. But the point is we're just psychologists. We're just looking for a cracker. you know, our snack, our treat. We're just treat chasers, and there's nothing else going on here. The whole fucking, the thing is just such a, everybody's so full of shit. You know, you have a little happy thing, happy place. Yeah, that was from that movie, Pappy or whatever, stupid golf, all these golf movies are so retarded. Well, anyway, yeah, go to your happy place. But that's all we're chasing, is our little stupid happy place. And everybody's happy place is constructed differently. We all like to dance different. We all like to do, you know, subtle differences because of different conditioning. And we think there's something meaningful in that, and you know, there's nothing meaningful. It's all just wanking, and you're doing it very, very expensively because all this horror is happening to create it. Yeah. All this death is necessitated for this stupid dance. And that's just fucked-hearted. Oh, he's going to get that. Oh, he missed. No. It's a good thing I showed up. I made you miss. I made you miss. No, that probably would have been good video anyway. But, yeah, he doesn't miss often. Well, they actually do. I have a couple of still images where Mr. Mantis didn't do a very good job. But it's a bug, for fuck's sake. It got a little tiny brain. And yet it can do all that shit. It's a, you know, and so we get all googly about what our brain is doing and consciousness. But I mean, geez. Insect brains. I mean, butterfly is flying. It has all the programming for flying. Complex aerodynamic stuff, all pre-programmed. Right? All the balance, all that stuff's all pre-programmed. And then it's got to do the visual thing, got to identify antennas to sense smells and nectar. You know, then it's got to articulate its proboscis very fancily to grab the little tiny droplets, and it's doing all that with just a micro fucking brain. And you people with your big giant 3 pounds of brain, you can't even make a rational, coherent response video, you dumb fucks. So yeah, don't be so impressed with your big fucking brain, because most of what it's doing is shit. Okay, now I'm done. It's vocabulary. Nobody realizes that this vocabulary thing is really taxing on the brain. So it has to store the word and the letters. You know, it's like the old PCs, you know, I mean, nobody really understood, but when your computer was overheating, you know what was overheating it? Just making the pixels for the letters. Yeah, because there's so many of them, millions of them, and it had to move all of those pixels all of the time. That's what was burning it up. So that's the irony. It's your brain gets burned up with that stuff. So vocabulary, when you think about it, is really, oh, that's uses up a lot. It wastes an awful lot of brain for very simple things, because it's storing it in a way that you don't even realize. You know, it's being stored in pixels, and your feelings are being stored next to it, and all of the, well, anyway, I don't want to get into it, but yeah, but that's preoccupying us. So anyway, it's sucking up a lot of our consciousness, I would argue. We're not, it's killing our senses, let's put it that way, stilling them. But that's another argument I want to make to the mystic real quick, is the idea that feelings are also, the key thing to feelings is they're kind of blurry, right? So we know that how computer science works, it's all this digital thing, very precise, very reliable, binary, you know, very rigid. But obviously feelings create something very analog, very mushy, and so it's almost like it's all vibrating. And that's almost like part of what's causing a randomness to it. So instead of it being precise as it should be, it's made all randomy, because our feelings are kind of, oh, it's there, it's gone. Oh, no, it's here, no, it's not. They're all kind of ghosty, you know. And so they're not giving the thinking machine much to work with, in the sense that it's always a moving target. You know, it's keeps keeps trying to deceive it. In a sense, it almost looks that way, like your feelings are trying to deceive your thoughts. You know, trying to force you not to have an answer. It almost feels like that sometimes. It's like the conflicting feelings, you know, your little angel and your little devil are almost trying to make your brain indecisive by being so, you know, floaty in terms of their substance. Do I really feel good or do I? No, I don't. Yeah, oh, yeah. No, I don't. Oh, yeah, I don't know. You know, that kind of thing. Anyway, till next time. And such.